You bear God's image, and you are God's representative in this world. Hi, I'm Shalini, and this is Bible at Work. One of the most powerful truths in the Bible is found in Genesis 1:26. Then God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness." And verse 27 says, "So God created mankind in his own image." If you read the Bible, you know this. God tells us not to make anything to represent him. In Exodus 20, we read, "Do not make for yourself an image in the form of anything on heaven or on earth." Why? Because God is limitless. He's infinite in power and wisdom and presence. He's beyond time and space. There is nothing we can create that could ever fully capture who our God is. But in Genesis 1, God does something remarkable. He creates someone to represent himself. And that someone is us, you and me. You and I are made in the image of God. Now, the Hebrew word for image that is used here is tselem. It means a replica or a duplicate. It can even refer to a statue or an idol. Think of it as a die-cast model of a car. It is not the real thing, but it shows the details and the design of the original. But tselem is more than a model of something. It represents someone. The very next word is likeness or demuth, and demuth means similarity. God created us in his image, similar to and like him in nature. Let me share something about Alexander the Great to help us understand this. You see, when Alexander the Great conquered new territories, he didn't just appoint rulers. He placed statues of himself in those regions. Why? So people would know Alexander rules here. That is the idea of tselem. We are placed on earth to show God rules here. And here's the incredible thing. God gave us freedom in how we represent him well. We can reflect him well, or we can misrepresent him by living in a way that says, "I rule here." But this understanding that we represent God is foundational to our faith, and it begins right here in Genesis chapter 1. In fact, if you have time, read Walter Kaiser's book, Mission in the Old Testament, Israel as a Light to the Nations. He tells it very well in that book. This knowledge that we represent God is made even more clear in the New Testament. Matthew 5:14, "You are the light of the world." 2 Corinthians 5:20, "We are Christ's ambassadors." Ephesians 5:1, "Imitate God in everything you do." The question is, how do we reflect, represent, or imitate God well at work? By how we live that says, God rules here. At work, especially if we have positional power, it is very easy to live in a way that says, "I rule here," but we don't. King David recognized it. So he wrote in Psalm 24, "The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the people and all who live in it." Showing up at work in a way that says, "God rules here," starts in our heart. If behavior does not start in the heart, we just cannot sustain it. So, if you read in Galatians 5:13, "You have been called to live in freedom," spend time exploring it. What does it mean to have freedom at your workplace? Look at your heart. If you have positional power at work, then take even more time to understand, how do I offer freedom to my team members that shows God rules here? You will find more things about God's nature in the Bible. Live it at work. In the last release, we saw that God creates, and he has given us the ability to create. How can you be creative at work? Let it start here and live it at work. God is deeply empathetic. God is protective of his children. These are all qualities that we too can show. But there is one heart posture that shows up in our behavior that reflects God clearly: love. Jesus says it sums up all of God's commands. It helps us to represent God well at work. And when we start our work day with love, it shows us and others that God rules here. And research shows that where there is love, people thrive and customers keep coming back. God is love. So be motivated by love for those you work with and those you serve, your customers. Show love. Show care. And if you are a leader, remember you have even more positional power to shape your culture. Shape it as a culture of love. Now, there are two things about love that you should remember. First, at work and everywhere else in life, love in truth. Loving in truth is truly loving. God is truth, and God relates to us honestly about who He is and about who we are. We should do the same. Pay attention to words and behavior. You know, we cannot see thoughts or feelings, but we can sense them in words and behavior, and it tells the full story. Jesus modeled this well with the Pharisees. He knew who they were, and sometimes He spoke directly. Sometimes He just walked away. And that is love in truth. Loving in truth helps us to align productivity with work culture, and it actually brings long-term growth. Measure where your culture is. If it's drifting, identify where and why. And often it will show you who is or who are causing the drift. Data helps and regular measurement helps. If you want a measurement tool, Leadership Practices Inventory by Kouzos and Posner is a fantastic tool. Second, at work, love generously. Be generous with your time, encouragement, ideas, and compensation. Generosity multiplies. It benefits everyone at work. Let me end with the story of a leader who lived this well, Herb Kelleher, former CEO and co-founder of Southwest Airlines. I studied his leadership some years ago, and here is what stood out. He loved his people deeply. He led with truth, and he loved generously. Southwest became known for its joyful culture, and Kelleher led the way, even hiding in an overhead bin to surprise passengers. But he also led in truth. While other airlines used multiple aircraft types, he chose only Boeing 737s. Why? It simplified training. It reduced costs. He was transparent about it with his customers, and they accepted it. In the early years, Southwest made no profit. One crew member recalls a flight where they were not paid. They knew of it after they landed, and the crew cried. But they stayed because they trusted Kelleher, and they knew he loved them. When Southwest finally turned a profit in 1973, the first thing Kelleher did was put in place a profit-sharing plan. If you lived in Dallas-Fort Worth, you will always hear people say, if you want to have a great workplace, go to Southwest. I wish I had always represented God like Herb Kelleher did. I didn't. I will also share those stories of my mistakes with you as we go on. But for now, here is my encouragement. Let's go to work as God's representative. Reflect God by loving your team and customers. Love in truth and love generously. Then, even if we have a high positional power like King David or Herb Kelleher, everybody around us will know that God rules at our workplace, not us. We will end here today. Drop your comments below about your experiences at work. It helps me to learn from you. Subscribe to our channel and subscribe to our emails. That way you will not miss a single episode release. And connect with us on Facebook or Instagram. Our website is www.bibleatwork.world. I wish you the best work life. See you in the next episode.